Out in the rain. I know it's messy today, so thank you so much for coming out. I am, make sure I'm here for live stream. Let me know when I need to move back in. Okay, good morning. Thank you all for coming out, and thank you for those of you on live stream for joining us today. This is our principal's coffee for the month of February, and we will start with introductions. I am Joy Antone, interim principal here at Howard, and we also have.
Hi, I'm Ms. Vito, I'm business manager here. Welcome, welcome.
Good morning, I am Geraldine Harper. I work with the absolutely dynamic 8th grade class, soon to be 9th graders.
And we are live streaming, so y'all can come on look on the camera.
Let me do that one more time. Good morning. I am Geraldine Harper. I work with the dynamic 8th grade class, soon to be 9th graders.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Paula Snowden, and I'm a retired school principal, and I'm administrative support.
Good morning, my name is Sharon Butler. I'm the interim 7th grade assistant principal of those dynamic, awesome scholars, 7th graders.
Thank you. And we do have some other staff here as well. Their name's not up here, but they are definitely great support. Raise your hand over there. We have our self/parent, so she's joining as a parent this morning, Ms. Asha Hall Washington. Mr. Hagens is our instructional technology support person for our building. So thank you all for joining us this morning. And so we will be going over a few updates, and then afterwards we can take any questions. And so we want to start with our agenda. Like I said, we'll talk about academic recovery, academy that's coming up. We'll do updates on safety and security, talk about parent volunteers, progress reports, end of the year 8th grade activities, and Rising Rhymes Parent Night, Go Team elections, map tests, and some other things there. But in terms of communications, we wanted to make sure that everyone understands our main method of communication, which is remind. Okay, so if there's anyone who's not receiving those messages, reach out and let us know. I do believe there's a way we can add you manually. So we do want to make sure that everyone knows that we use remind. If we send messages out, for example, to a certain class or a group, we do oftentimes use Infinite Campus so that we can send a message out to a class or a grade level or something to that effect. But the main method we have been using is remind. It was actually set up by our district where it pulls routinely from Infinite Campus. So it is really important that the information that's in Infinite Campus, the contact information, is up to date and correct so that you receive those messages. Okay. Also, like I said, I already mentioned that there is a transportation remind that was created last semester. So there's something that happens with the bus, and Ms. Beatles, you're here, can explain to you how that works. But the information was sent out, and parents were able to actually join their students' bus remind. Perfect example, we had a bus accident a few weeks ago, and we were able to just alert the parents from that bus that there was something going on without, scaring everybody in the entire school. And so that did prove to be very helpful. Okay. So if you need to sign up for a transportation remind, as you want to share with them how they can do that, come on up.
So, good morning again. I have to give you the code, but I sent it in the general remind for all the parents who have students who ride buses to join. We have about 100 parents, which is not even close to how many bus students we have. But if you would like to join, I'll see if I can put it on the main website. I try not to inundate all of the parents on things that go on buses, because if your child doesn't ride a bus, you're like, why does she keep texting me? So I moved everybody to a transportation remind. So if you would like to have access to it, you can either email me and I can send it back to you, or after this, we'll get you signed up.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Beatles. All right. So, of course, if a parent has a concern outside of the classroom, is it best to call, email, or visit? You can do either or. You can email, you can call, you can visit. Now, the best thing to do is email or call so we can set up a time. just so that you don't waste time. The person that you need to see may be off campus that day, or may have some meetings, and we want to make sure that we make the most of everybody's time. But you can do either or. And who is the best person to begin conversations with? Looks like we're cut off there, but when it's concerns in the classroom, it's cut off there, but that first level should always be the teacher. If there's a question or a concern that, something's going on inside the classroom, that teacher is right there, and they're gonna be that first level. If you were not able to get your concerns addressed there, or a situation not resolved, then your second level would be your grade level lead, such as your assistant principal, your dean, or your counselor. And then the third level would be me. Now, with attendance concerns, you can always reach out to Miss Sabrina Granderson. She's the young lady that sits behind the front desk all the way over to the wall. And she will address anything as it relates to attendance as well. When it comes to any concerns outside of the classroom, that first level there, you're looking at your assistant principals, your deans, your counselors, and then that second level, you can always reach out to Ms. Beatles, our business manager, and the third level would be me. Any safety and security questions and things that you have of that nature, you want to see Ms. Beatles. Okay. In terms of the protocol for teachers and administrators to respond to parents, emails and phone calls should be returned within 48 hours. So just want to make sure you're aware of that. How can parents request an in-person meeting? The best way is just to call, email, come up and request a meeting, however you choose to do so. We've had plenty of in-person meetings, so if that's something that you need to request, feel free to do so. Academic recovery. So we just received information at the end of last week about the Academic Recovery Academy. This is pretty much known as summer school. And so our district has sent out information to parents of students based on MAP scores already. Although all students are welcome to attend summer school. However, those students who need support based on those MAP scores have already been targeted and sent invitations from the district. And so pretty soon they'll probably be soliciting help from the schools to help support them get those students in and register. But right now, they've already been contacting students and do know that any student is welcome to attend. Now, there are other programs that will be offered this summer, such as Level Up. Fine Arts Camp is gonna do the AP College Success Boot Camp, Power Up with the dual language instruction in Spanish, ESY, normally for our special ed students, Kinder Camp, Pre-K, Kinder Summer Transition Programs, and Summer Bridge for 6th and 9th grade. We've received information only right now for the ARA, Academic Recovery Academy. And then I know for Level Up, we should be receiving some information that should be going out around the first week of March. So if that's something that you're interested in, that should be coming out. And then as soon as information for the other programs come out, we'll be getting that information out as well. Okay.
Can I go back to my question?
Yes.
Yeah, so sorry, going back a couple slides with the communication. So if a parent, if an email isn't responded to in 48 hours, what's the next thing? Do we email again or?
You can email again. And another good thing to do is CC someone to make sure that someone saw that email. But if you did not get a response, you can definitely call or email again. And I know we didn't put Dr. Snowden's name on here, but she's also our support as well. So you can always CC Dr. Snowden or someone else, just depending on whatever the situation is involved. All right. For Academic Recovery Academy.
Wait, we have another question back here.
Maybe you're gonna answer it. The locations aren't listed for ARA. Is Howard a location for rising 6 through 8?
Yes, we do have that. Howard is not the location. It is King Middle School.
Okay.
King Middle School for Howard and King students. So there'll be several locations throughout the district for different students, but last year it was at Howard. This year it will be at King Middle School.
ARA will be at King Middle School.
ARA,
Our Rising Boot Camp or what we used to call boot camp, whatever, it will be here.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So the summer bridge is what you're
Summer
talking
Bridge, that's
about,
what that means.
will be at Howard. But for the summer school, which is called ARA, that will be at King Middle School.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It is the entire month of June, the 1st through the 30th, 5 days a week. It's a full day. For those of you who did not receive information last year, it's a full day, full schedule. They focus on reading and math. And there's also STEM and STEAM projects that students participate in with Power Up at the end of the day. Like I said, all students are welcome to attend. However, there are targeted students. There are teachers who are hired to provide support like accommodations for our students who are ELL and receive services through special ed. And they also integrate social emotional learning. If the student attends full day, then transportation will be provided. Any questions about ARA before we move on to updates with safety and security? Okay.
All right. So, the security thing that we kind of talked about some things we need to work on, things we've done correctly, what's next. And so one of the things is that morning entrance has gotten better. I know at one point it was taking us forever, but now I feel like the kids are in routine. 9:13, 9:14, this morning, 9:15 with the rain. And what we did was ask the bus drivers to hold the kids so that they wouldn't get wet. And then as the area cleared, then they got to come on in. But it worked really well this morning. Volunteers, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. For those of you who have volunteered to help us in the mornings. I know one of the questions is, how else can we volunteer? Our biggest thing is the doors, and as you saw in the morning, the group when students come in late. That's our biggest priority. If you want to work with field trips or in the classroom, you have to do a level 3 volunteer clearance because you're working actually with kids. And that's the board policy that anyone that is working with the kids has to get the level 3 volunteer, which if you want one, call me. And I know people try to email me with that, but I have to kind of talk to you because it's a lot of information I have to put in the application. They used to do applications where you all could fill them out and turn them in. They don't do that anymore. After COVID, a lot of things went on internet. So I have to fill the application out. I have to look through your schedule and my schedule and the schedule to do the fingerprint and connect them, see what's good for you. You have to have a COVID test at least 72 hours, just kind of a lot of different things. So if you want a level 3 volunteer, you are welcome to get one. Just call me and I will make sure I put you on the list. Now, I know that each grade level is getting ready to have their activities for the end of the year. 8th grade will have their activities, and I know they have a group meeting, but they're gonna need volunteers for that. And if you are working with the children, you have to have a level 3 volunteer. If you're just communicating with parents, coming in, putting, decorating the building, doing that kind of stuff, you won't have to have one. You can use the blue thing in the morning that we use. Make sure you have your license. Make sure you have your license because you have to scan your license. And then you can come on and work with them. So each grade level will have some different activities coming up. The district is slowly opening up to field trips, slowly but surely. But we are making sure that our kids take advantage of the things that we used to try to get some normalcy back. I know Dr. Harper will talk about the 8th grade normalcy coming back, but that's the next ways that we can volunteer. And my extension is 3211. So 404-802-3211 if you need to get in touch with me.
Ms. Doodle,
Yes.
now I have to ask,
Hey.
I get it so much from the crowd. Will we, do you see in the foreseeable future, have parents help at the front office? I get that question more than anything else.
So,
Used to at Inman.
right, but we don't have a need for that. So COVID changed a lot. It made us change our practices. It made us learn how to do things, less paper. I know at one time when I was a teacher at Inman, parents would come in, make copies, do that kind of stuff. Well, we don't use paper now. Or if we do, it's very rare because we had to learn to do things, you know, through COVID over the internet. So a lot of things that we used to do, we don't necessarily have a need for yet. But if we do, you best believe I will be getting in touch with you and Susanna as soon as possible. Yes, ma'am.
Is the level 3 approval, does that only last for 2 years like it did in the past?
I
or
think
you go
it's
through the
3
process?
years.
What's the standing time with it?
I think it's 3 years now.
Okay.
Is it 2? Is it just 2? Okay. And you get a badge, just like the teachers. And so it's a lot easier when you come in because you can show your badge. You still have to sign in, but it's a lot easier process. Does that make sense?
But level 3 is only if you're unsupervised, correct, with the student. So if you're in a room with the teacher, you don't need level 3, is that right?
If you are working with kids, you have to have a level 3. That's what we've been told.
Heidi, I volunteered to go on the chorus thing, and none of us were allowed to ride the bus because none of us had the approvals, but we were able to meet her at Midtown High School and kind of assist, but we were not allowed to ride the bus.
Right. So you have to, in order to work with kids, like if you're actually working with them. You do.
Okay.
It also helps if you all want to coach. And I know that's one of the things. If you get one, you can coach. You can help with coaching at any point in time. And I know sometimes they ask for additional volunteers with track or with different sports. And if you have a level 3 volunteer, it's easy to say, hey, they have one, they can help. So, and you can just go out there. Yes, ma'am.
Easier for us to get a list of parents that want a level 3 so that we don't have to keep this.
No, they have to individually call.
Okay.
Because I have to fill out an application for them. And I have to go on and check their schedule with the schedule of the district when they're doing it. So you can't just give me a list. Mm-mm. Okay.
So are we doing just field trips for 6th and 7th grade to junior achievement?
Yes,
Yeah.
but that is by the district. That has nothing to do
Just
with the
wanted to
school.
make the fact that we are doing a field trip for 6th and 7th.
Yes, that's a district.
Second semester, the district opened field trips back up for all schools. And the last newsletter had the dates of the 6th and 7th grade, what do you call it, junior achievement field trips on
Yeah,
there.
that went through the district.
Yeah.
So let's talk about progress reports.
Yes, yeah, just some dates to keep in mind. Our next progress report goes home on March the 14th. That's actually our midterm progress report. And then on April the 22nd is our 13.5-week progress report. And then our final progress reports are actually set to go out on June the 3rd. But at Howard and Inman, we typically are able to send them out a little bit earlier because we like to make sure to use our staff to help us get those envelopes ready to be mailed out. So that last one is mailed out. The district date is June the 3rd, but you can probably expect that from us a little bit earlier than June the 3rd. Any questions? Oh, great. Oh, great.
Can you talk a little bit about the, I can give a date, I think I put it on there, parent conferences, are coming up, you should get a link, today.
Yes.
March 1st, next Tuesday, where parents can sign up for parent conferences. And then March 15th, the teachers will be reaching out to parents to set up conferences. And that's going to be right after that March 14th progress report. So just FYI about that as well. Do want to mention Go Team candidate declarations are open now. So if you're interested in serving on the Go Team, we do have two seats available for parent guardian seats, and then also one community member as well. So be sure to put your name in. We've been sending that information out. We'll send it out again. The deadline is February 28th, which is Monday. So if you know someone interested, or if you want to recommend someone, please do so, because those elections will be coming up in April. Okay. And just told you about that, but the parent conference is March 1st, like I said, that's next Tuesday, and then March 15th, like I said there. All right, and Mr. Prony, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning. I'm Mr. Prony. I'm the sixth grade assistant principal. My apologies for being late. We were holding our sixth grade town hall this morning as well, so lots going on this morning. So I'm here to talk about MAP test update. So many of you are familiar with the MAP test is our assessment that allows us to see where our students are performing in reading and math, and then also to assess their growth over the years. So we've had our beginning of year and mid-year assessments, and now we're looking at our end of year assessment, which it doesn't feel like March 7th is the end of the year, but we have a lot of other testing that happens after that. And so the March 7th window will be when we do our end of year assessment to see how much our students have grown this school year in reading and math. Last time we did not have proficiency and beyond for the testing window. We will be maintaining that time this time. We want to make sure our students are getting their intervention time in particular. And we will have a modified schedule, which means that their core classes will be a little bit shorter. We're finalizing that schedule this week. If you can remind your children that this is an adaptive test. And so what that means is that the test is unique to each of them individually. As they get questions correct, it gives them harder and harder questions. If they're getting questions wrong, it eases the difficulty of the question. But what that means is that about half of their questions, they're going to get wrong. And so if you're a parent of one of these children that really wants to get every single question right, please talk to them about that's not the way this test works, and to help them move past the frustration or kind of, the self-talk where they might start shutting down if they're getting questions incorrect. Talk to them about that's okay, and that it's a test-taking strategy to encounter a question that you may not know, give it your best guess, and just keep moving on. We have found that the test usually should take between an hour or two maximum, but some of our students are really stalling out because they're feeling frozen and not able to move past questions that they don't know how to answer. And as always, just encourage your children to do their best. Is this next one mine as well?
When does the window close?
The window closes, I think, March 28th. We're aiming to get them all done within about a week and a half. And then we have makeup testing for those who are absent for some reason or who may need a little extra time. Is there another question?
How are you using the MAP data to compare how effective you all think the new curriculum, what is it called? Amplify is working, particularly in the area of English and ELA.
Yeah, so I mean, do you want to talk?
Yeah, sure. So we do look at our MAP data. Pretty much how we're using the MAP data right now is each time we actually take the assessment, we make sure that we train our teachers on how to analyze the data, and they normally do that in their collaborative teams. And they're looking at their students to see what types of things need to be addressed. Because it is also an indicator of how well they will do or perform on the Georgia Milestones Assessment. And so we shared with all the teachers, how their students did in terms of growth. We look at growth, and as we compared our school and looking at, schools in the district, I think we were the second school in terms of students who had the most growth with MAP, because every student has a growth. Every student should have at least 3 to 7 points, like a 3 to 7 point increase in order to show the growth that we want to see. And so as we were comparing data and looking at that data, that's what we want to see. However, the teachers are also using it as they analyze it in their collaborative team meetings together when they all plan together to see what they can do and how they can use that data within their core tier 1 instruction in the classroom. Yes.
Has that MAP data been made public to us yet? The overall school. Not.
Yeah. So we sent out, we shared the first administration, we shared the data through GoTeam. We can share that. That's something we can share in our next meeting. We send out the parent reports, individual student reports for parents. But in terms of what we can do, because we have data that we did share with the staff in terms of this is where we were when we had the fall administration. And this is where we were with the winter administration, so they could see the difference per grade level and, with our students, and that data as well by subgroup. And so that is some data that we can definitely share. Yes.
But how does that, I was just gonna say, but what are we doing with the discrepancy between ELA and math? Because I have, high achieving students, I've had carpool a lot of kids, and
That are struggling
even
with
some teachers have talked about it with our children. If you look at a quadrant, we've got this tremendous growth in math, and then you're down here with the ELA, it's not happening, and these kids aren't reading books, they're not writing, they're answering third grade comprehension questions that are 7 questions a day, and then they're on their phones for the rest of the day. I'm concerned about the program and the curriculum, it just doesn't seem to be on par with what these kids are capable of doing.
Got it. So one of the things that we've done this year is to partner with our district coaches, ELA coaches, and they've been coming to our teachers collaborative team meetings and helping us with that part. Some of the things that we asked them to work with us on is making sure that we can look at rigor for our students, but also looking at rigor for all students and how that looks, and also targeting students who are struggling with it. One thing that we see is the math. I think for the most part, our teachers, our students feel like the math is very rigorous. And then with ELA, they feel like it's not rigorous enough. And so those were all the things that we shared with our district coaches to make sure that we could address that. And one of the things that they're also going to be working with us with is, how do we make sure that we're able to use Amplify and make sure we're addressing all of those things. And it is an ongoing process. Like today, we actually have the Amplify consultants who are here in the building right now going through each classroom, ELA to be exact, to look at what's going on and to make those suggestions, get questions, and to make sure that they're able to address all of those needs. And so perhaps one of our next parent coffee could be just talking about Amplify and what that looks like. It is very different in ELA and math, as even the way, that is rolled out. A lot of our students are used to gradual release, the gradual release model in terms of instruction where, as a teacher, I may do, and then we do, now you do. Whereas, it looks a little different now, okay? And so that's a change, that students notice, like, whoa, wait a minute. And then, you also have the change with our curriculum being in a platform, okay? And so those are some changes that I know we have to get used to, but all of the things that you say have definitely been addressed with the district in terms of just, and advocating for our teachers and our students in terms of what our needs are. And so, like I said, it is an ongoing process, and we can bring someone in to talk about that as well. Yes.
Just piggybacking on that, with book reading in particular. So my child's ELA teacher talked about how they were going to be reading 1 book this year, which sounded kind of alarming to only read 1 book in the ELA for the whole year. And they actually haven't started reading that. I'm not sure that's even going to happen. So in talking with other parents, that seems to be sort of the same idea, is that Amplify has replaced reading books. So can you tell us what the expectation is in ELA for, is there still book reading happening? And if so, how many books? And
yeah, so it is different, with Amplify. They may take excerpts from, particular books, and they do repeat that. They may see that 4 or 5 times while they're addressing the service skill. They may read a part of a book, but not the entire book. And that's something that is definitely different this year in terms of what we've done in the past and, the number of books we have been reading in our ELA classes. And so I think it would be very helpful, because we could make sure that you get a really good understanding of how that works, to have our next parent coffee just focus on Amplify, so that we can address all of your questions and bring in some of the specialists who actually works with that. Our math department lead, for example, meets with the Achievement Network consultant for Amplify Math every other week. And we also, like I said, the district ELA coaches, they do send us reports so we can see, how effective we're being in terms of usage and how the kids are doing once a month, and they are working with us as well. But let's set up our next coffee where we talk about that, so we can make sure that all of your questions are addressed.
okay, but just so in general though, at a high level, Amplify has replaced reading books.
So they're not reading all of the books like they have done in the past.
But are they reading any books?
They're reading part of books through.
So they're only reading excerpts. So there's 0 book reading for ELA.
Right. With Amplify, like I said, it's not where they're reading a whole book. They'll read parts of books, you know, in terms of different parts of the stories or the books as they're addressing certain skills. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, so my question is related. There's decades of research on language learning and reading is actually the biggest predictor of language development and growth. And so no person from Amplify will convince me, otherwise I know the literature. So what can we do as parents to convince
the governor. This is the top down.
Is it though? Is it, the governor is mandating that every school use
No.
Amplify? That, I don't think
No.
that's the case. That's not true.
No. So,
See, the entire state is doing Amplify?
no,
No.
that is not true. No, that is our mandated district curriculum, but I hear your concern.
Okay,
And,
and I just want to add to that, I mean, I'm not a fan of Amplify at all for language, but I mean, why not, even if we have to, for some reason, even temporarily, if we have to continue to Amplify for the rest of the semester, it's, what I've been told is that teachers are told they can't assign reading.
Right.
And I don't understand that. I don't understand why we can't add book reading to the Amplify reading.
Yeah.
So they do have to follow pacing. They have been provided pacing through the district. It is a mandated curriculum. So yes, they do have to use Amplify. And there are certain things that they do have to do. Yes.
But
can't they also read books?
You know, people are asking what you should do. This was a decision that was made by the board
Right.
and the superintendent. And I think it goes against the charter model of our school district, which says that schools should have more autonomy over their curriculum. So I suggest that people email the board, email the superintendent, and voice your concerns about Amplify. I certainly share everyone's concerns. I've heard the same issues. And again, I think it goes contrary to the whole charter system upon which our school district is based. So schools are supposed to have more autonomy for choosing their curriculum, and the school mandating a universal Amplified curriculum for the entire school district is contrary to that. So that's what I recommend.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Keenan. And I know Amplify 6 through 8.
Yes,
Okay.
it is not at
Six
Midtown
to
High
eight.
School, for those of you who aren't there yet.
6 through 8. All right. Yes.
Not like.
Okay.
So when you're talking about the planning and easing of the data and all that kind of stuff, what does that mean for kids like my daughter who cross teams and it sits on 2 different teams because of subjects, and then also in 8th grade where we don't have teams? How is that?
It's still the same. When the teachers plan every Wednesday and Thursday, all teachers, and let me give you an example, in 6th grade, all of the ELA teachers plan together. All of the math teachers, all of the science, all of the social studies, they all meet on Wednesdays and Thursdays and they plan. Normally Thursdays are the day they look at data.
So your teams
same
are more
thing.
subject-based instead of what you're talking about, like what we think of as teams with our core classes?
Yes, the collaborative teams, which some people call PLCs, professional learning communities, they are subject-based. So in 8th grade, where you do not have any team, still, all of the math teachers, they meet, all of the ELA, all science, and all social studies, so that they're looking at that data together.
Okay, so there's no planning as a core team for our students who, you know, as a former teacher, like, you know, a student may really perform well in social studies, and that's great for that math teacher to see there's something connection there. So there's no planning with those core,
With the
like,
core- the
team 1,
team-
team 2, team 3, it's just all
Yeah.
subject-based.
So the teams, not the collaborative teams, but the teachers who are on a team together, who may be ELA, science, social studies, math, they do have opportunities to meet as a group as well. For example, we have data talks, and they meet as a team with the different disciplines, okay? And they're able to discuss those high, outliers who may be doing really well now. So we need to do something different here, or students who are really struggling, and vice versa. So they're able to say, well, in science, this is what's happening. It's the same thing going on over there. So they do have the opportunity to meet and have those discussions. Yes.
So, sorry, to go back to the question, how many prior to Amplify, how many books would they have read? I'm just curious, because I don't know.
Yeah, it did,
4 to
let's see,
5.
two days.
So in seventh grade, we would have done The Giver, The Hobbit, and then a collection of poetry. There are also 4 book projects that we would have done, one per semester. So in seventh grade, we would have done 7 books. In 8th grade, there would have been 6, and in 6th grade, we would do The Outsider. There were about 5.
But so Howard is forbidden from reading books because of something the district's doing? Couldn't we, even if the district is mandated Amplify, couldn't Howard still have book reading and ELA?
So they do have, autonomy to do certain things outside of Amplify. Between 10 to 15% of their time, they can do some things outside of that. However, they still have to make sure that they're keeping up with pacing and following through with the things that they have to do within that curriculum. Yes.
I love the energy about people advocating for, their family or their cohort, and I would love to see that same energy kind of in a direction of working against oppression and historic disadvantages that people have faced, and just sort of, because there are many voices that don't seem like they're represented in this room, and those voices, I feel like we need to listen extra hard, and I don't feel like these are people who may not even be able to make it to this meeting. So while, that passion is fabulous, and I really think that thinking about it with an equity lens would be I'd love to see some of that passion, some of that excitement being sort of redirected.
What is your name?
Catherine.
Thank you. I'm so glad you brought that up. This is a conversation we just had yesterday with our entire staff. We had a training on Monday, looking at tolerance and beyond, just looking at equity. All day training actually it was a district-wide training. And one of the things, we have a question on our lesson plan that addresses that. And so as we're wanting to continue that conversation as a school and looking at that very thing, we do want to make sure that we continue, like you said, that same energy, and making sure as teachers are planning, they're even looking at, that very thing as we're looking at lesson planning each time.
And Catherine, please join the Go Team. You're not alone. I'm here, and we need voices like that. I've heard the term at-risk youth a lot, at-risk youth. I don't know what that is. So we can talk offline, but I encourage you to join the Go Team. That would be a great way for you to take that lens and that focus and amplify.
I wanted to say that too. I don't feel the same way about Amplify. I do have a child who has lots of access to books, but one of the things that I liked about what I'm hearing you talk about Amplify is there is a lot of different perspectives that I don't think have been addressed in the books that have been traditionally shown in those classes. So that's one of the reasons why I like it. I totally get that it would be nice for them to read more books. Not everybody has a house full of books that they can. So part of my concern about saying, why don't teachers just have more books, is then we need to make sure everybody has those books. So I see both sides. I get the frustration about the less reading of books. But at the same time, I do like the perspectives that are being shown in the Amplify. I was more asking because I had no baseline for what they used to me. This was just like, okay, yes, I just read the book. So, as a parent, I also see both sides of that.
Thank you.
I'd like to piggyback though off the reading and not to let this go. And I do think that with reading, then you have writing and literature responses. And in turn, these kids are not writing either. And I think that when we think about equity or whatever, I think all of these kids need to be taught this, no matter where you're coming from. Yes, I do believe I'm a former teacher, you meet the children where they are, but just forgetting that all this stuff is out there and that there is a need to do these things doesn't make it okay for everybody.
Yeah, and so writing is a part of what they're doing. I know they're not reading, several books like they used to, but all of those areas are being addressed through Amplify.
They're not
reading any books.
They're answering 3 questions that are done in 5 minutes and then playing on their phones for the rest of the day.
Right.
Okay. So we definitely need to have a session on Amplify so that we can make sure that, questions and concerns are heard. So we can definitely set that up.
Back to the equity question. What will we do, or what can you share with us? Because I'm not in these meetings for my own child, to be quite frank. But I am very concerned with various groups that we have in this community. And I would like to see a real, too many resources, too many, we're not Buckhead, we're not the North Carolina cluster, we don't want to. What are we going to do about those pockets of kids as a school, as a community, as a conversation, moving it forward? Because that's the missed opportunity, quite frankly.
Right, right. And that's what we were,
Those-
right, and that's what we were doing yesterday, and that conversation and action has to continue. And so as we, and when they analyze data in their actual collaborative meetings, they're looking at subgroup data as well. They don't just look at, okay, this is how this class performed, but whether it's through Edulastic, which is an online platform that the foundation purchased for us, where they can give quizzes, it actually breaks that data down into subgroup data that they're able to look at. And then the other thing is, through the equity talks and the question that we have that we address on the lesson plan, we really want to push that to make sure that we're pulling in things and make sure that all of our students can identify with certain things and making it relevant to all students. But they are looking at all of our students. They plan with that type of data. Yes.
I have a question actually, shifting to math a little bit. So I had a child who went through Inman and has since graduated from Midtown. So my point of reference is a while ago. But for 8th grade, they were able to do the advanced math that they needed to do so they could get through Calc BC.
Okay.
Now, as I understand it, that has since disappeared as an option. And the only way to do that now at Midtown is if you do summer school math between 8th grade and 9th grade. The last thing I want to do is put my child through summer school between 8th and 9th grade. I'll do it if I have to, but is there any way to get that back into the curriculum? And if so, I understand there are so many parents that also want the same thing. So what can we do to make that happen without having to subject these children to summer school?
So the way it's set up here right now, because then when they enter 6th grade, we do have the accelerated math pathway in terms of the AC math, where they do all of 6th grade, half of 7th, and then 7th grade is half of 7th, all of 8th, and then by the time they get to 8th grade, it's algebra 1. And so once they get to that point and they move on to Midtown High School after algebra 1, I would assume that they're not able to take the upper level.
So no, we're behind where we were 3 or 4 years
So
ago.
Okay.
what they do at Midtown in 9th grade, the kids can do double math. So they can take algebra 2 first semester, geometry second semester, and then in 10th grade, they're on pre-calculus. So it gets them to calculus BC if they want, without summer school.
And there's other options than ABA as well, if they want, like, I have a daughter who's trying to get her way out of geometry at all costs and has already figured out how to do this online, right? So like, there are other options, and I understand people are very upset about this change, and this was not done at Howard, this is a district-wide level, it's also started at the elementary schools, but if we really do want to talk about an equity lens, that really did separate a lot of us out. It took resources away that could be used for the better. There's still options for your child to get through Cal, F, G, whatever. But it's just different than what it was before.
So in other words, so sorry if I'm not understanding correctly, but in other words, we're going to accelerate them in the 9th grade when they then have those grades will count toward their college applications versus giving them accelerated in the 8th grade and then advancing them so that they're ready when they go into high school. That's the difference that I see. Do I have it?
Well,
there?
Yeah, I guess if you're talking about the specific transcript. Yeah.
But I don't think it's not accelerated, you're just taking.
It's just,
two classes
yeah.
at once.
So no, I think what you said is that you're taking.
You take algebra
Algebra
2
two
first
same time.
semester, algebra 2 first semester,
Yeah.
geometry second semester of
Which
9th
would,
grade.
yeah,
Oh,
which
wow.
geometry would normally be a year long.
So you're taking two classes, so it's not accelerated, it's not an accelerated case.
So you're
It
saying
is,
they don't have.
the kids will be taking it for, if my child's registered for next year for 9th grade. She's taking one math class and she'll take math every other day for the year.
Oh.
If you take the 2 dual math classes.
You have math every day.
day for 1 semester,
Right.
algebra 2, then the second semester you begin geometry and you take that.
But I would say the latter is not accelerated because you're taking it you have two classes in a
Correct,
day.
yes.
So that's what I'm saying. So you can do it in a way that's not accelerated. And if that's not a faster pace, it's just two of your classes in math.
And that's not what I heard there was.
No, that's correct. My daughter's in it right now at Midtown High, so,
And my son's in it right now.
yeah, so.
So.
I guess, so my question is, so if with moving to the signature plan of STEAM, which is supposedly all, largely about technology and science and math and so forth. So we've just stripped away accelerated math from 8th grade, which used to be algebra and half of geometry. And we've just taken accelerated math out of elementary. And so basically the options now to stay on that sort of accelerated path are to either take summer school or to double up in math in 9th grade. Is there talk about going back to just having normal accelerated math if the focus is STEAM?
Yeah.
Can we, instead of stripping all the accelerated math away, could we move back to that?
Good question. So there's not been talked about that at this point, but it's, that's a concern. We can definitely bring that up, to know that that is a concern, but there hasn't been any talk of that.
It just seems like for the kids to stay on the accelerated path, they have to jump through various hoops that makes it more difficult. They either have to take summer school or take double math. Whereas before they could just take a year and a half of math, one math class each year and stay on that accelerated path. It just seems a little hard to understand why we're making it harder
Gotcha.
for kids to
We can
stay on the path.
definitely, make sure we ask those questions in terms of that. It seems like a struggle, it makes it a little bit harder, but we can definitely address that question.
So, sorry, one last question on that. So are we saying there's no option for changing that now?
Right now, yeah.
In the
Not
next-
yet. It's not at the school
So-
level. It's not a school level decision. So that's something that would have to go through the district.
So go to the district.
Back to my friend Catherine, and I wanted to say, even though, look around the room looks one way, but as a parent liaison, I get emails and calls from our entire community. Even if you don't see a parent here, they are likely very engaged, so I want to say that. Moving forward, as you mentioned, are we going to have a lens on anti-bias training for our teachers? And
Yeah, we already have. Yeah, we've had implicit bias training the last couple of years. And that's something we wanted to do it January 3rd, but we had to pivot because we had to get our teachers and our staff together for virtual learning. We had that whole week. But our staff have been through implicit bias training, and what else did we do? Several trainings, anti-racism. So that is something that has been happening in house.
Okay, I have seen that as a parent, but I would love to see more of it, and I think it's a way to be able to address the parents who are not in this room.
Gotcha. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry if I missed this, but aren't the math standards changing this year as well? So all of
Next
it
year.
could change. When do you expect to know more?
So there are trainings coming up within the district, that's being rolled out. And so as those trainings take place, then, most times our district will communicate these things and have, meetings to, share what that looks like, in schools as well. But they are changing for next year and trainings are forthcoming.
And that's at the state level that's changing,
Yes.
right?
Will our 8th graders still have an opportunity to use the Algebra 1 next year?
So as far as I know right now, we have not received anything different. We're actually, what's Dr. Harper? She had to step up. Right here, we're actually planning for Algebra 1 next year. Yes.
For rising 8th grade? For rising 8th grade.
Yeah.
We're not gonna strip it back like we did 3 years ago, take the double, we're gonna keep them.
No, we can't strip that back because we have so many kids that are.
That's what I wanted to hear.
So we have to offer help.
I have a question about the safety, the committee that was formed. And I just wonder, I have heard a lot of reporting about how that's going, what's coming out of there. And I just wondered a couple of things. Can we get a little more information about that on a regular basis? And then secondarily, just a thought is that there could be a regular inclusion of the safety report in the RAINS report each week. I mean, I just feel like I would love to hear a little bit more about what's happening in the background as not as a one-off.
So like what? Because there isn't anything, we haven't found anything in book bags other than mace every now and then, scissors. I mean, there's really nothing. We have to have a tornado drill, we have to have a fire drill. There's nothing really going on here
So
for safety wise.
that's a great relief for me to hear, but I would say that for a parent who doesn't hear a lot from, at least I have a boy, he doesn't report a lot back, so I don't actually know what's happening, so the lack of information is actually more disconcerting to me. So just hearing that on a regular basis to say, we've heard, and there was a.
I sent a reminder to say, hey, we've had a wonderfully safe day.
I like that, Reed.
Right, because really, honestly, there's nothing. I mean, you have kids who have squabbles and disagreements, and that's not something, you know, that's between the parents of those children, but we don't have anything. I think in the beginning, we had to understand that the kids that were coming here, 8th graders or 6th graders, 7th graders or 5th graders, and our 6th graders are really 4th graders, because they've been out of school for a long time. So it takes a minute to get them back in the groove of school and rules and regulations and what we do. So in the first semester, it was almost like having to be an elementary school teacher, which none of us, most of us, I know I'm a high school teacher, but most of us had not been. So it was, don't touch, stop doing that, don't do that, sit, okay, when you sit there, you know, and so it took a minute, but now the kids are in a groove. It's education, education, education. We have a couple of 6th graders that do a little squabbling every now and then, but it's pretty much calm. And so, I mean, if I can send them out once a week and say, everything was safe today, you know, but I try to send them, you know, as general, unless something happens.
I guess
So do you want me to just?
Like our lockers being checked, our lockers being checked.
Yeah.
Lockers are checked if something happens. We don't just go into children's lockers. We just don't. It's a 1,200 plus lockers.
So at least as a parent, and I don't know if the rest of the group agrees, but as a parent, I just would like to hear that on an ongoing basis. We're still having a little, you know, we're a little sensitized to some of the things that happen.
It will be in your next round report. I have to write a newsletter also.
Yeah.
If there's gonna be a safety, block, that's gonna come from Ms. Beadle, she'll give you my P's and Q's, but I will make people feel much better about that.
Yeah.
And I'm in the building, and I think that's.
I would just love to hear like what's happening. I mean, the things that you mentioned, that, you know, no locker checks or when a new system is installed, if there, you know, we had some issues during the screening this morning, or even I hear sometimes there was a big fight, like I hear that from my kids, and I hear it, I'm listening to them in carpool, and I just want to hear when that kind of stuff happens, there was a disagreement, no other children
And
were
so we
affected.
will say that schools will have fights.
Yeah.
And so we don't
That's fine.
report every time there's a fight. If there's something major that occurs, then, you know, we report that. But typically we don't report when there's a fight. And then also understand that fights range from 2 students shoving each other to one person hitting the other one didn't, to a real fight. You know what I mean? And so those aren't things that we typically report if there is a fight. We do reach out to the parents of those students to make sure that it is being addressed. And I think I saw it here and there.
So there was a recent town hall thing that I think someone from the APD gave some stats. And as a parent, even though, you know, you're a little alarmed to see how many and the stats and who needed, you know, at what level of violence or whatever, I found that really comforting, just as feedback to know. So if I saw another report like that in the springtime, I could see whether the trend was going up or down. And I'd love to hear that things are getting better. But, you know, one wonders.
So let me tell you, this is what I told some parents. Because when we had that meeting, I don't know, in the chat, you know, I don't know if y'all know, I'm the one responding to the chats in those meetings. And well, not even let's talk, when we have our, and we're chatting, I'm the one answering. If you have a question, call me. I will answer anything you need to know. I know Mr. Hampton was in the chat. He and I talk when we need, you know, he'll call and say, hey, this is going on, what's up? And so just call. I mean, I'll send something out each week and say, hey, everything's calm, everything's safe, just, you know, just so that you're aware. But if you even get an inkling, call me. I'll answer.
you
And
know.
that information that.
I wasn't done, there was a.
No, I was just telling you
yeah,
that.
There's a piggyback thing, so, I don't want to have the lens on just myself, but I wonder if it's a school-wide problem. So, Team 4 had some teacher vacancies. I don't know what the level of vacant positions in this school is. So I don't know whether I should be like, hey, where's my teacher, right? Because what if there's teachers missing all over school?
So the parents of students who have a teacher out, whether it's maternity leave or paternity leave, those parents are notified. They're sent a letter and they have information related to their child.
I guess I'm just wondering if this is, I'm talking about there's no teacher, like there's a sub and a permanent sub. And you're looking for a replacement, and I'm perfectly happy with it. I just don't know what the status of our school is with COVID, there's teacher shortages. What's the
Yeah, right now, we only have 2 teachers out. One is on maternity leave and one is on paternity leave. And they have long-term subs. And like I said, we communicate with those parents via Infinite Campus to make sure that they are aware and what we're doing to make sure that instruction continues. Okay. All right, so the time is, I do want to respect everyone's time. It is 10:30. I do appreciate you all coming out. Like I said, the weather looks like it's already stopped, so that's great. But thank you for coming out. If you do have additional questions, just let us know and we will work with you to get those questions addressed. I do hear an amplified meeting coming on. That has been something that, there's a lot of questions, a lot of concerns, so we can definitely set that up. But once again, thank you. Thank you to those of you who are with us online.
And can I say something real fast? For the PTO, I'm Susanna Roberts, PTO president. The March signups for door monitors and RES will be coming out the end of this week, so please look for it. We're doing a month by month, just so we can keep them managed. And also, if anybody's interested in being on the PTO executive committee next year, please let us know. Thanks.
Thank you all.